Hey everyone, it's Christine Gritman here with Social. I do this show every week where I talk to my smart friends about different topics relating to social media. This year I've been doing monthly themes for social, so even though I have pretty much had someone British on just about every month because I have a lot of smart friends over there. This is specifically British Invasion Month in commemoration of the trip to England I was supposed to be taking at the end of the month. But that's okay. I've still, thanks to the magic of the internet, I still get to hang out with my smart British friends, including Ian Anderson Gray. Yay! Hello, Ian.
Hello, do I have to say jolly hockey sticks or something terribly British at this point?
Sure. Do they have hockey over there?
Well, no, we do, but that's a very, very antiquated phrase they use probably in Victorian Britain. It would be jolly hockey sticks. I have no idea why. It's weird.
I'm in a Victorian house right now, so that's kind of perfect. All right, Ian, tell us about you and where you're coming from.
So I'm dialing in from near Manchester in the UK, so that's just northwest of England, basically. And I help entrepreneurs level up their impact, authority, and profits using live video confidently. And that's the word. That's the big thing, because a lot of people struggle with the confidence getting in front of the camera, or with the technology, or with the content and marketing. So that's what we do.
And it's very interesting because there are those of us, like me, like you, who have been doing live video like this for a while now. But now, all of a sudden, just regular office workers are forced to kind of do live video because they're on video chats and all of that. And it's a very big adjustment for people.
It is. And I think there's a lot of people. So there's a lot of people that have been maybe stalking me in a nice way in the background. They've kind of been wondering what I do and seeing this live video thing. And they finding it interesting, but they think, no, it's not for me. And then suddenly they think, oh, yeah, okay, I might need to do it now. And so they're starting to kind of ask loads of questions. And yeah, it is at the moment, live video is becoming even more of a huge thing than it was before, because people are realizing the power of how you can connect with your audience in a very intimate, very intimate way. And it's amazing. Also, so many other things that it can help with, like with repurposing content and just engagement as well. Just so much stuff. And so, yes, and now is a very, very good time to jump in the deep end. It's also a great way, in a way, the whole fact that we're working from home now is a bit of a kick up the bum, as we say in the UK, to get you starting with live video, because you're going to have to embrace it.
Exactly. You can't go meet with people in real life. And the fact is, you can't hope that people will stumble upon you the way you might otherwise going to networking events or, all of that, just because everyone's at home. But the great part of that is everyone's on their screens, right? Everyone's on their computer, on their phone all day long. So how did you come to be, and I know this story to some degree, how did you come to be a live streaming coach?
Oh, it's a very strange journey. I mean, so just very briefly, back in the day, 20 years ago, I know I don't look that old, but I trained as a professional singer, professional classical singer. And so I did that. I taught singing, but I was always interested in technology. So I started blogging around 10 years ago. And then it wasn't really until probably about 2016 when Facebook Live came out that I started wanting to investigate this new technology. I wrote a blog post about it. It went really, really well. And people were really wanting to find out how to use Facebook Live and other live video platforms. And then I suddenly realized I had this epiphany moment, really, that my training as a professional singer and as a teacher combined really well with my love of technology, so I could help people with live video and help people with their confidence. There was one problem, and that was I was not at all confident doing live video myself. So I could teach people about the technology, but when it came to actually going on live video myself, I was really nervous. I was really, really nervous. And so it was a long journey, but over time, I think I've definitely improved. I've definitely gained my confidence, and now I do it all the time. I teach people how to get their confidence, how to get over those nerves, and actually, in fact, use those nerves to engage with your audience live.
Now, what were you nervous about? Because you've performed on stages, I imagine, all over the world, huge audiences. So what about just that camera made it more nerve-wracking?
And this is actually, it's a very common problem. I speak to a lot of performers that when it comes to getting in front of the camera, they feel really nervous. And so there was a number of reasons. First of all, there's this whole, I call it feeling like an idiot syndrome. We're worried about how we look. And the main issue, I think, is that if I'm performing on stage or if I'm speaking on stage, I used to get far less nervous speaking in front of 300, 400, 500 people on stage than I would I would feel less nervous doing that than I would doing a live video. And I think the reason is that we're speaking to this inanimate object called a camera. So actually, what I'm doing at the moment, let's unpack this now. You're in your office at the moment. I'm on my office. I can see you, but I can't see the people watching at the moment. And I'm actually in my office. I'm speaking to a camera. It's actually quite a weird thing. It's not something that we normally do. So I think I had to get over that. And I also had to get over how I looked on camera and how I sounded. And also, you can't see other people's expressions. You can't see how they're doing. When you do a performance, you can see people's faces, their expressions, and you get the energy from the room. You don't have that energy. And so I suppose one of the big things that I learned is that those nerves that I had before I pressed that go live button, I learned how to see that as a kind of a good thing, to turn in my mind that fear of the camera into excitement in front of the camera, to actually use that as the energy that was missing from my focus on the camera. That took a while to get over, but now that I've learned that, it's made such a massive difference. So I think it's a number of things. It could be those things. It could be those nerves. And then there's a few other things just briefly that I think can be a problem for people. Imposter syndrome. I'm sure a lot of people suffer from that. And comparison syndrome as well. How many of us, I'm sure you're not like this, Christine, but how many of us look at other people out there who are doing live video or other content, and we think, that's so amazing. I could never do that. And of course, what we're doing is we're comparing our 0th video. Is that such a thing? A 0th video?
Sure.
Because you've never done them before. Or your first or second live video with somebody's like 100th video. And also you're comparing yourself with somebody else's way of doing things as well. So comparison is a really big problem. And then finally, perfectionism. And I like to say to people, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So don't let perfectionism stop you from embracing your dreams on live video.
Absolutely. And another really key thing that, I'm always really cognizant of is that, yeah, you and we're seeing all these amazing live streamers because that's the industry we're in. We're seeing the leaders. But our audiences aren't necessarily seeing those leaders. We're the leaders to some people. So it's very interesting to realize we can compare all we want in our heads to people who are so much better. But everyone else isn't necessarily seeing that. Other people are really seeing, wow, this is someone who has the guts to go live. I don't have the guts to do that. They're amazing for even doing it. Right?
Absolutely. And then the other thing is, we were joking about having a tea party in this. But
I've got coffee here.
I've just got water. But anyway, I think so. We're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And other people out there aren't going to be our cup of tea. So if there's somebody who is going live and they're in pretty much the same industry as you, you're probably going to start comparing yourself with that person and either trying to imitate them or just thinking, oh, well, I could never do it as good as them. Well, you need to stop that right now, because the thing is, there'll be some people who absolutely adore let's call them your competitor. But there's going to be some people who love what they're talking about, but they're really not their cup of tea. And you might be their cup of tea. So you need to get out there, share your expertise, because you might have a different slant, a different way of expressing your expertise that's going to be really helpful for someone. And you may just have a slightly different personality. Maybe you're slightly more introverted, a quieter person, or maybe you're just so full of energy and that is exactly what they want. So it's about being real. But I hate to use the word authentic, but it's true. You need to be you. That's what we need at the moment, particularly at the moment. We need nothing more than real human connection right at the moment in the middle of the coronavirus crisis. So, you need to. Somebody said to me a couple of years ago, so I was struggling with sending out my newsletter because I was thinking, well, nobody is really going to be interested in what I'm talking about. Or I need to get maybe the technology. I need to get the technology better. I need to kind of upgrade to the latest version of my mailing list software. And actually, while I was procrastinating with all of that stuff, my friend said, actually what you're doing, Ian, you're being selfish, because all the people that are subscribed to your mailing list are waiting for you to share your knowledge with them, and you're just messing around with the technology. You're worried about what people think. It's the same with live video. If you're concerned with all of these things, you're actually making your live audience miss out. So yeah, we need to get a grip really and stop being selfish.
I really love that. Now, one big thing that I've seen you do that is incredible is you talk about how people can make sure that they're presenting well on video in terms of, how they sound, how they look, all of that. Can you give a few basic tips for people who maybe, technologically, they don't have anything. They've just got their camera that's built into their laptop. But how can people make slight tweaks in what they're doing on live to make sure that they're able to sort of present confidently?
Yeah, and we're not talking about technology tips here, are we?
No tech.
So there are tech tips, but you know what? Forget about that. Keep it simple to begin with. And so, yeah, the first thing I would actually practice doing, which took me a while to get used to, is look at the camera. In fact, don't look at the camera, look through the camera. So if I actually, this is not going to help for podcast listeners, but if I actually look down at the screen at Christine now, it looks very strange. It actually looks like I'm looking at the floor.
Yeah.
But I've had to teach myself to look at the camera. And so a great way to do that is actually print out a picture of somebody you love, or it might be your favorite client, and put it directly behind the camera. And then you can look at that person. Or what I did is I just pointed arrows. I just painted arrows on a bit of paper and put that behind. Or if you're on your phone, quite often the camera lens is tiny. So just get a little sticker. And it's not that we're being narcissistic, but when we go live on our phones, we see a big image of ourselves, and we end up looking at ourselves. Not particularly because we want to look at ourselves, well, maybe some people do, but it's because we're just wired as human beings to look at somebody else or look at a face. So that's the first thing. And then I'm a big believer in warming up your body, warming up your voice, and I think this is probably what you're referring to. So I call this my Confident Live warm-up formula. And so the first thing is basically to make sure your body's relaxed, because I think when you're stressed before you go live, we tend to hold a lot of tension in our upper body particularly. So what I like to do is, first of all, we'll relax our shoulders. So if you get your left hand onto your right shoulder, give it a bit of a massage. Look over to your left. So you're stretching your neck and you're giving your right shoulder a massage. Oh, that feels good. And then you do the opposite way. I love the way you're doing this, Christine. To get involved. Right. Usually you do this before you go live, but we're going to do it while we're going live, and then do it the opposite way. Okay, that's great. And then the other thing is I hold a lot of tension in my neck. So if you look down to the floor and then using your fingers and thumbs, just rub up and down your neck. And while you're doing this, you can give a bit of a yawn, a bit of a sigh, just to get some oxygen into your veins. Like that. And then also just pull your fingers down to the floor. So you're just rubbing your neck like that. I don't know about you, Christine, but I feel relaxed, even more relaxed.
This is great. Didn't know I'd be getting a massage today. I love this. Yep. Best episode ever.
Yep. So that's one thing you could do. Now, the next thing you could do is we want to make sure that your facial expression is as animated as possible. Obviously, you want to still be yourself. So I'm going to have to take my glasses off for this. But basically, what you need to do is make a massive face, big face like this, and then scrunch it up really tiny. And then big again. And then tiny. So what we're doing there, I love that. What we're doing there is just using our facial muscles just to get a bit of animation into that. So that's number one. There's that, and then the other thing is stretching up to the ceiling like this, and then wiggle your arms and legs, jump up and down like that.
I'm sitting. I'm not jumping.
I just realised that my camera's just fallen down. There we go. Okay, I'm not going to do any more jumping. So that's do some stretching exercises just to make sure that your body's nice and relaxed and flexible.
That brings me to a question, actually. So, since you jumped up and down, I gather you're standing. I'm sitting.
Yes.
Have you found any sort of difference between the two in terms of being able to present?
Yeah, so I'm not going to say that people need to stand. I personally find standing really helpful. It just makes me more energized. If you are going to sit down, so actually, depending on your setup, sitting down can look better. So I think it really depends on your setup in terms of your studio. But if you are going to sit down, that brings me on to posture. Posture is really important. And so when it comes to your posture, make sure that you are standing or sitting up straight. So make sure that your back is straight, your shoulders are down, and almost as if you are balancing a book on your head. So you can balance a book on your head like that. You should feel nice and straight, and it shouldn't fall over. So that's really good. And then that brings me on to breathing. So you could keep
Don't forget to breathe.
So if you just put your hands just below your bottom ribs. In the singing world and the acting world, we call this, it's a posh phrase, diaphragmatic breathing. And this is basically what we're doing is we're using our rib cage, we're using our lungs, we're using our diaphragm to regulate our breathing. So if you put your hands just below your bottom rib, so the fleshy bit there, press in fairly firmly, and then breathe in into your hands. So breathing in and then breathing out. So breathing's really key when it comes to doing any kind of performance or any kind of live video, because it just helps you relax a lot more. So then let's do it again. Breathe in, and then I want you to let it out to a hissing sound. So I'll do it. So when 1, 2, breathe in, and then excellent. That's cool. That's good. So yeah, you should be aiming for 6-9 seconds. And then if you can do more, 20 seconds, then that's good. It just really helps you regulate your breathing. And then that brings me on to diction. So then you can come up with your own little silly tongue twister phrases. You can make up your own gibberish, like gada 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 gada, bada 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 bada, gada gada gada, bada bada. Just really using your tongue and your teeth and your lips to really get that. And you can combine this. You can combine that with doing some lip trill exercises, which will enable you to, or stop you from sounding like a robot. Because the other thing is, so I call this pitch interest. What's really important is that we don't end up speaking like this and people are going to get really bored. I mean, how long could you listen to me speaking like this for, Christine?
I'm already getting drowsy.
Yeah, we don't want that. So we need to use the lows and the highs in our voice. So this is a lip trill exercise. Doesn't matter if you can't do this in a brrr sound, but just make up any kind of sound, and you're going from the low to the high and then back down again. Like that. Right, that's good. Excellent. And since we're on what are you calling this month? British month?
British Invasion Month. You're like the Beatles. You're the Beatles of social media.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that. So Fab Five, really, because I've got Andrew and Pete. But
we'll forgive you on that. Well, they come as one anyway. They're one end.
They're a set.
So since we're being terribly British, we'll talk about we'll do a phrase here. I would like a tea, please. So the way you do this is you say that sentence and you're going up. I'd like a tea, please, like that. Can you do that, Christine?
I'd like a tea, please.
Excellent. So you went up on that, and then we're going to do the phrase. Not a coffee. Do that?
Not a coffee.
There we go. So you went down. I mean, obviously, I know in your case you're having a coffee, but...
I would like a coffee, please. Not a tea.
Yeah, you can do it that way. And then you can combine all of those together and come up with a silly little song. So this is what I did last year at Atomicon and this year at Social Media Marketing World, which is my Daddy's Got a Head Like a Ping Pong Ball song. And the advantage of this is it gets you working your diction, helps you with your pitch interest, and quite frankly, it's really silly. And what better way than to press that start broadcast button, having a bit of a smile and a laugh? And it's to the music, the William Tell overture, the Horsey Horsey song. Doesn't matter if you can't sing at all. It's just having a bit of fun, and it goes like this: Daddy's got a head like a ping pong ball. Daddy's got a head like a ping pong ball. Daddy's got a head like a ping pong ball, like a ping pong ball. There you go.
I love it.
So that is basically the Confident Live marketing. The Confident Live warm-up formula. But there is one final thing, which is to do with what I call heightened authenticity. So very briefly, come up with your phrase that describes your business, and then just repeat it at different levels. So if we were just talking one-to-one, I'd probably say my phrase is level up your impact and authority using Confident Live video. But if I was doing a keynote on stage in front of 10,000 people, I would probably say level up your impact authority using Confident Live video. But that is going to be too much for live video. The first one was too little. So you're just practicing those different levels until you get to probably where you feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's a bit too much energy, but it's actually exactly the right amount of energy that you need for your live video in order to, because the problem is your camera is actually an energy sucking device. So you need to actually give more than you think you need to give.
Yeah, I tell people to tap into their inner game show host, and just like the camera adds 10 to 15 pounds, it also removes a few notches of enthusiasm.
Yes, that's really true. Really true.
But I like that. It's an energy sucker. I really like that. That's perfect. Oh, this is so great. Thank you so much. And this is something that people can use also. I mean, people may feel like an idiot with a little extra enthusiasm on their work calls, but the fact is not really. Because, again, keep in mind that the camera is dampening you a little bit more than you think.
Absolutely. I'm not wanting people to change their personality. So if you're quite a quiet person, I'm not trying to tell you to become this mega, like, over the top person. It's not that. It's just leveling up the energy that you've got. Otherwise, people are going to switch off and they're going to get bored. So it's just to be more yourself. That's why I call it heightened authenticity.
I love that so much. Ian, what are your live streams about?
So my main show is the Confident Live Marketing Show, and that is basically about so each one will have a different theme. There are 3 themes. One is confidence in front of the camera or mindset. So we've had some psychologists on the show, which has been interesting, and talking about warm up and those kind of things. The second one is about tech and gear, where people like to get a bit geeky, but I try and also say, look, you don't need, certainly when you're starting off, to get too techy, but that's what we talk about. And then the third thing is the content and marketing. So it's basically how to start a live video show, and I have so much fun with that. It's great fun.
I love that. What's some of your favorite gear that you personally use?
Yes. So one thing, I'm a great believer in bootstrapping your live video studio. So I started really simply. I actually didn't start on my phone because in those days, in 2016, I didn't have access to live. So I had to use this software called OBS Studio, which I wouldn't recommend for beginners now. But so now, so I started with a Logitech C920 webcam, which is down here somewhere. If you can see it, there we go. It's still
I've got one of those too.
So they're great. They're
Not
really good
it.
web. No, I used that until a couple of months ago, when I then got the Logitech Brio camera, and I had some problems with it. So I had to take that back. I would recommend it, but now what I'm using is a Canon M50 camera. And because I'm running it on a Mac, I can plug that straight into Ecamm Live, which is the software that I use for live streaming. But if you're on a PC, there is other software you can use with that called, the name is going to escape from me, SparkoCam is the one. So if you're a PC user, you can use SparkoCam with the Canon M50 and a prime lens, and it really levels up. I also have got a microphone, the Heil PR40 microphone, but I started off with one of these things, which is the Blue Yeti microphone, which I recommend. It's a really nice. It's not mega cheap. It's around $100, £100, but it's really good. Now I've got the Heil PR40, which is more expensive, and I've got the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 Solo, or no 2i2 is. So I plug that into that, and then the other thing I've got is the Stream Deck. This thing here.
Fancy.
That is cool. So the Stream Deck basically is a way of they're kind of customizable buttons, and you can change the way they look. So in Ecamm Live, for example, I can have a different button for each scene, so I can change the scenes very, very easily.
Ooh, fancy.
So that's what I've got there. Behind me, I've got a green screen. This is the Elgato collapsible green screen, and I've got some lights. And I just have to kind of labor the point. I did not start off with this. This has taken me 4 years over time to get this gear. I didn't need all of this stuff. And then the final thing, so the other thing that I do with my live show, and I wouldn't recommend this for beginners, and actually for most people, but I actually use Ecamm Live and StreamYard at the same time. So what I do is actually output. I basically produce the show in Ecamm Live. I output that. So Ecamm Live, the Pro version's got something called a virtual webcam, which is great. And then I take that feed into StreamYard. And the reason I do that is StreamYard is so good at multicasting. So I can broadcast to Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, all these things at the same time.
And LinkedIn. I've seen you on LinkedIn Live.
And LinkedIn Live too. So yeah, it's the only thing with that is there's a lot of moving parts. But because I'm now fairly experienced at this, I've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years. I've got to that point when I can do that, and I also make that into a podcast. So I record that in Adobe Audition at the same time. Not to be recommended for people starting up, but that's where I've got to now. So yeah.
I love that. I've got a pretty similar setup, lower tech than yours, but I also have a DSLR camera. I've got the Sony a6000, and I have a cord called CamLink that links it into my computer. So I've got the CamLink. I've got it set up to Ecamm. I love Ecamm. I've multi-streamed with Ecamm by using a third-party software called Restream, but I don't like it as much. I feel like StreamYard is more reliable than Restream. Those of you who were watching Social earlier in this year might have seen that for the first 3 months of the year, I was moving this show to not only Facebook, which has been on since April of 2017, but also to LinkedIn and YouTube, and now it's back to just Facebook. And the green screen thing, it's interesting. I don't have an actual green screen, but I discovered the other day that the Ecamm green screen actually kind of works to some degree, as long as you've got some degree of background, I think, behind you. I'm going to have to play with that later. Ooh, whoops. I'm going to have to play with that later. But I love Ecamm. I love that you're a fellow Ecamm user. Big fan. All right, well...
So many tools out there. So it just start off with one that works for you.
Yeah, it's really fun stuff. All right, so Ian, tell people where they can find you.
Well, they can find me near Manchester in the UK, but that's obviously not at the moment. We're all stuck in our houses. But
you're going to have people like 2 meters away from your house, big throngs of them.
But in the virtual world, you can find probably the best place to go is my website, iag.me. I've also got the Confident Live Marketing Podcast, so you can find that at iag.me/podcast. So that would be cool. Yeah. I
love that. And another thing I've done this year new is this also is a podcast as well. So that'll be out on Monday. So thank you so much to Ian Anderson Gray for being on Social. Again, I do this show every single week where I talk to smart friends like Ian about different topics of social media marketing. Next week, I have return guests, Andrew and Pete. So excited about them. And they've done such an incredible job of not only nurturing an online community, but they had an incredible event coming up at the end of this month, Atomicon. And instead of just saying, you know what, we're going to do it virtually, we're going to stream it, they've expanded it to a full month of incredible online events. They're going to talk about that pivot and how they have used this opportunity not to deliver less value, but to actually deliver more. So join us next week for that. Thanks so much. Bye.